welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood, Zach Stat Pearson. Except no substitutes, batteries included. And today, I'm joined by, let's see, what happened? I know what your name is. I'm just trying to think what comical ad-lib haven't I used for you yet. But you've ruined it, so we'll just go with that. And
Sorry.
it's all good. And as if the title didn't already give it away, we're going to be talking about the eternally controversial new Devil May Cry show. So our grading criteria for this episode is essentially the same as it always is. The plot or story, the writing or dialogue, sound effects / music. And of course, we have a bonus, which isn't, letter grade quantifiable, which is cons. Bad things you think happened in the show and where do you think they need improvement. Now, for the uninitiated, I'm going to remind people we cannot use actual Netflix footage. Even if it's just a trailer, sometimes I have to re-upload multiple times something because even if Netflix allows it, because I'm only using the commercially available publicly promoted trailer footage, a third party who made the music or the musical branch of any particular company can say, oh, we're going to mute this whole track or a portion of the track where our song plays. And if it plays all the way through in the background, that's a bit of an issue. So for the most part, we will be using this visualizer to keep track of everyone's grading criteria. And also, recording it for posterity's sake, and also because we want to hear people complain about what they want to complain about. Reminder, when it comes to critiquing, there is no wrong answer and there is no right answer. It's a critique. You're only being critiqued if something wasn't done the proper way. However, in the world of the artistic fields, you can be critiqued just by somebody deciding that they want to critique you. As they say, everyone's a critic. All right, so I'm going to go first, at least until we get to cons. Then when we get to cons, I think I'm going to let you go first because that's technically not a part of the grading. And you know what? Let me turn my phone on silent before it accidentally goes off again. God, that's gotten annoying over the years. Okay. So as far as the plot, I was made aware well before the show came out, and then forgot and was reminded again before the show came out, that they would be following their own storyline, which I can't say I blame them for. Personally, I would have preferred if they did what Capcom is doing over with their Street Fighter comic book and filling in the gaps of what happens in the interim or the in-between, or possibly using it to fix plot holes or unknown information. But we didn't get that. We got a dynamic, original situation. So essentially, we're seeing Dante from the discovery of his demonic past, going into what can essentially only be described as a pseudo version of the events of Devil May Cry 3. Or at least partially. The first season did not go through what you would consider the entirety of the Devil May Cry 3 story arc. Furthermore, as stated, since things are not inherently a set canon, there are situations where characters are essentially chronologically out of place. So you have to come in with that hat on in the beginning. Now, as far as the plot and the story, I give it a C. It was the definition of nothing special, and it was the definition of nothing inordinately out of hand to the point of absurdity. It was literally, as Shuffle would put it, well, that was a thing I watched. I understand that there's multitudes of different interpretations to how this story is being handled. Here's my issue and here's my problem. It was extremely, extremely formulaic on some levels, to the point of boredom. So unlike most people who are legitimately hating you know, and whatnot. My hatred is not born because there wasn't some omnipotent, omnipresent idea of Devil May Cry that the show did not conform to. My problem was the story was barely entertaining because it was so formulaic. Yes, Dante does kind of sort of act like young Dante. Yes, Lady does kind of sort of act like young Lady. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is almost everyone else who's around it, and essentially a vast majority of them being analogous or allegories of, you know, Christian fundamentalism mixed with immigrants being declared illegal, etc., etc. And the reason that bores me isn't because it's already a very, very strong cliche within the world of, dramatic writing. The problem is it's becoming cliche and formulaic to the point of almost absurdity to me and boredom with Adi Shankar's storytelling prowess in general. Now, I don't normally like to spoil, the vast majority of stories for any type of media, especially if the media is not very, very old, or upwards of 10 years old, So, imagine my surprise when I see that I can almost verbatim label this story eerily similar to what he did with the, I don't know what you would call it, but the cumulative Ubisoft show that he did that riffed and parodied a bunch of their already existing characters. Listen, if I almost use the same words to describe them on some level, there's a problem. So, peep this. In that Rayman-esque show they had about, I think it was 3 years ago at this point, Laserhawk, which I don't even know if it's getting a sequel or not. I did like the show, don't get me wrong. You were essentially watching certain characters on the show be on different sides of the selling out to a higher authority to essentially ostracize and exile or enslave, if not brutally torment and murder, a group of interdimensional people from a different land who are essentially refugees, interdimensional refugees. Oh, and one person is on their side, technically, but he changed his mind when he wakes up to the consciousness of, being a decent human being. Or I guess technically not a human being. Now let's move forward to Devil May Cry. The main villain antagonist is only the main villain antagonist because he decided he wanted to help a group of demons who were innocent because they have been unjustly labeled as satanic monsters who are hell-bent on destroying the concept of humanity. And it is human beings' right to essentially slaughter them indiscriminately and with extreme prejudice, because according to the vice president in the show, it is a God-given privilege and holy right of human beings to slaughter these bastards. They're literally intergalactic or interdimensional refugees who are trying to move into a place where they have a better quality of life and living, and they're immediately treated as if their name is Firing Squad. It is crazy, and that's what bothers me. It's not that he made the story. It's not the concept of the story. It's that this is the third or fourth time he's done something similar. Now, I know a lot of people look at storytelling through there's three lenses. There's the people who read and watch too much, and they tell you the same thing. Everything is based off the 5 types of stories. Nobody's really going to come up with anything different. The real question is, how can you make somebody feel who's watching your version of the same shit? Which I can understand. Because if you can't be unique, at least do something so uniquely exotic or rare that they haven't seen it in a long time. So there's not much in modern era to compare it to. I get that. Then you got the people with low media literacy, and they go based off what they feel, Now, let me say that again, low media literacy. That does not mean stupid. And even if they are, you shouldn't harass them for it. These are people who legitimately don't understand the concept of a complex story. If it's not spelled out for them via tell and show in any form of media, they probably won't get certain concepts. These are the people you would compare to any type of like GOP obsessed CEO or conservative or neoconservative whose favorite band is Rage Against the Machine or Green Day. They literally make music about why you as a concept are terrible, and they don't like what you're doing and how you're fucking up the country and by extension technically human lives, and then saying you're a fan of them. You obviously missed the whole point. You weren't going to go past the surface layer. And then you got the third category, which I think I'm somewhere in. Whereas you can think critically and deeply about any form of media you consume, but you understand that not everything is meant to. And then there's this gray area that you don't understand. That's where I'm at. So personally, I give the entire plot a C. To summarize the reason, because it's extremely boring and it's been done by this exact same production company, or I guess primary producer, multiple times over the course of 4 or 5 years. Just slight deviations on the same formula. That is a problem. This is not Power Rangers. Now for writing dialogue, oh, and if you have any questions, Des, just let me know. Now for writing dialogue, I'm a little bit torn. Because Dante is not supposed to be speaking like he genuinely gives a shit for 80 to 90% of his dialogue. He is chilling and then getting hyper. He goes through different moments of being hyper and other moments of being extremely laid back, and then other moments of, okay, I really need to kill this bastard. So when you look at something like that, knowing that, really what needs to happen is, how do the other characters who aren't from the series or who barely got into the series compare? Right? So, as far as the written dialogue, I did enjoy it. I give the written dialogue a B, or really a B+, because the characters who were supposed to make me feel a certain way succeeded in doing that, barring few exceptions of the enemy characters. I don't know if you remember Agni and Rudra, but that whole sounding like some drunk Scottish brother duo or Irish Scottish brother duo, that shit irked me so fucking much. If you even look up the country and the style of demon and the lore, real world lore that those two are based off of, it makes no sense for them to sound like that. Oh, you killed my brother, eh? Well, I'm gonna take you out now, Dante. Like, no, what the fuck? Their names are Agni and Rudra. Agni, if memory serves, being an Indian fire god, or one of the words for fire. And I'm assuming Rudra probably has something to do with wind. Why the fuck do they sound like that? However, they are so infrequently involved with the main plot that if that's my biggest concern, I can't really fault them for the way the characters are written. There are some people who sound almost too comic booky or Saturday morning, but it's not overly exotic and ham-fisted. One of the best performances I've seen from an antagonist in anything Adi Shankar has done did in fact come from the vice president, played by the late Kevin Conroy. Now, it's not because I like Kevin Conroy, he is cool, he's my Batman. No, it's because Kevin Conroy's character convinced me of how much of a dick he was. And that's what a good villain is supposed to do. That's what good writing and good character combinations are supposed to do. So, honestly, if I think about every single character, I think they performed how they were supposed to perform. I did not hate it. And if I had any advice, oh wait, I'll save that till the end, sorry. Now, when we go into music, so this one's weird because theoretically, music, and sound effects, how they're handled and to their priority in a scene differs from what would happen in a video game. But also, sometimes you can make the aesthetics easily match up. And that's where I have a little bit of a problem, so to speak. Really think about this real quick. In Devil May Cry specifically, the less you get hurt, and the more frequently you perform certain actions, the more engrossing the music gets, the louder it gets, and it even adds vocals once you hit a certain rank with your combat. You can easily emulate that and mimic that in any other form of a performance. Live action, animated, whatever. The only place where it might suffer is audio dramas and audiobooks. But see, here's the thing. They didn't do that. So because they didn't do that, they chose to do a more traditional format. They chose to do music that's supposed to reflect the emotion of the scene or the visual tone, which is having the music match what's going on the screen instead of what emotion we're trying to feel, which they sound similar, but they're different. And in that case, they failed a vast majority of the series. Because I can tell you right now, I legitimately cannot remember almost any time a significant track was played other than the awkwardness from when Dante first does his devil trigger and they're playing Nero's theme song from Devil May Cry 5. Nero, who's not even born yet, or if he's born, he's like 2 or 3 years old at the point in time of this story. That shit's crazy. That shouldn't be a thing. I'm not saying you have to go rearrange and redo every single track ever that was ever in this, which in some cases they did, and that's cool. What I'm saying is, chronologically and tonality, things were not lining up. Okay? It just felt weird. Dante has collectively what you would consider 7 songs associated with him that I can think of. There's the combat themes in each individual game. So that's 5 right there, or 4 if you count that DMC 4's combat theme was universal. There's a notable track in 1, and 3 is really where it went ham. Okay? And yet, if memory serves, almost no track from Devil May Cry 3 was even used. What? I would literally rather they had made something with some of the same artists who work on the music and arrangements from Devil May Cry 1 through 3, then skip to 5. So, as far as the bullet sound effects, they're extremely cliche and generic, so that leaves the other fantastical sounds, which few people have even heard the realistic versions of. In which case, the sound effects, again, it did what it was supposed to do. I'm completely indifferent to it. It didn't sound bad, it didn't sound good, but it sounded like it fit, and that's really what's most important in most cases. So I'm gonna give the sound effects and music a C. However, I did forget to put this category up, so I apologize in advance. But since I'm going first, that gives you time to plan something. Animation. All right, so I can't remember which studio specifically is animating this, or it doesn't matter sometimes because one studio can animate, but you can outsource almost everything about it. It's very common, it's nothing new, and it's not a secret. Here's my thing though. Yo, am I the only one who feels like just a tad like the animation, at least for the combat situations, they rely too much on distortion? Now, what I mean by that is when you want to have a fight sequence, especially with characters that have superhuman capabilities or they're fighting monsters, you want to have it to where there's a bit of exaggeration with how they're viewed and how they're drawn. I understand that. I get that. Here's a problem I have. There's a lot of animations that don't really go to Dante. So Lady is, many feel, overrepresented in this show. My issue with that statement is people are forgetting source material related shit. Number one, this is a prequel, as in this is meant to be Adi Shankar's version of what is going to be, or what is, the Devil May Cry 3 storyline, or what can lead into a similar story to Devil May Cry 3, which means it's in the past. Number two, this is based off of the Divine Comedy, which I wish they would also tell people is a long ass poem, Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno, which has multiple books and other games themed after what the Divine Comedy was about. If you know that story, you know that there are females that are important in that series. Right now, Trish has not been born, or hasn't come into existence, with the skin, not literally, of Dante and Virgil's mom over her body. Lucia, which I don't even understand that shit, is currently in jail along with Dante, which means that the only person left, technically, is the lady whose name escapes me from Devil May Cry 2. I believe her name is Angela, but don't quote me on that. If you come across her name, let me know. But in Devil May Cry 2, there's a novel based on it, and there's a female demon hunter whose name escapes me. I think her name is either Artemis or Angela. So, I'm actually okay with Lady showing up, because she also helps move certain storylines along and plot elements that we aren't going to know, because Dante can't know and won't think to ask stuff like this, and it would seem unnatural for him to ask that shit. Dante is not known for thinking, besides the fact that, well, for lack of a better term, he's actually smart. He's one of those people who doesn't care if the smart gets in the way of his fun. You can tell him anything and everything you want to about, oh, your evil villain plot. And Dante's more of the, hey, that's cool, but I'm here right now, let's just fight about it. He seems very attention deficit at times, or it could just be a character, kind of like Spider-Man in his sarcasm. Anyways, so it doesn't bother me that we have a secondary character moving along the plot. But these animations bother me because it's almost like they're used as an excuse to have very limited low movement frames happening. So I can't say the animation is bad. It's more like they were very reservist with how they did the animation. I will say I don't necessarily like how Dante's outfit, but to be fair, Devil May Cry 3 Dante kind of dressed, yes, he dressed cool, but he didn't really dress like someone who put legitimate thought and effort and layers into their outfit. In fact, he's the opposite of that. Virgil does all of that. So, I will say I did like the animation. I did like the visual effects that went along with the animation, but there are certain elements that feel out of place, and they're not as good as disguising when they're switching between using computer generated elements versus animation. And that's what really throws me off, when I can actively and easily tell, okay, you just transitioned. So I will give the animation a B. It is good. It is competent. If there was some messed up frames, I barely caught any. But I do acknowledge that there is a lot of start and stop. But there's more stopping than starting when it comes to high frame movements. It doesn't have to be combat, just in general. So, before I get into the cons, I'm going to just re-put all of my scores. I'm going to use black as a color. Oh, fuck. Oh, I guess I can't do that. Okay. Well, I'll go first. Use a different color when you're doing your grading. I give the plot and the story, like I said, a C. I give the writing and dialogue a B+. Sound effects and music, another C. And animation, I'm going to give a B. All right. With that being said, let us know how you feel on each topic and try not to go past 5 or 6 minutes. Yes, I know I did, but I'm not saying that because I'm selfish. I'm saying that because there's going to be a lot of people behind you, and the more people there are, the more edits I have to do.
Got it. Let's see. And I would say, as real quick, I guess, even though I bought the whole series as a box set, I never actually got around to playing it. In episode 2-ish, I paused and I watched the opening scene of the original, like the remastered original Devil May Cry and some of the gameplay, just because that was, I don't know, for some reason my ideal of what the story was and what the anime was very different. So I watched just a short chunk of the game's play and opening scene. I was like, well, the game's a little over top because to me it all felt really over the top. So then I was like, well, it's slightly less annoying. But and I will also say episode 6 was very different for me than the rest of it. So the main series, like you, I also rated it a C. It was to me, it felt very, a little pale, action, based, not like very plot driven, I should say, and not without a lot of thought to the characters, especially in the first few episodes. So, and I agree that it also seemed pretty, like it was just following tropes. So, and I thought that they made the pretty, and also I've never watched any of Shakur's previous stuff, so this is the first time I've ever watched anything from him. Or when they first started doing the pretty obvious comparisons to Immigration, I was like, oh, but everything was so action based and kind of shallow that I don't think that I think it could have come across if he would have been a little bit deeper with it and developed his characters more. But like, for example, Lady is like, these people are evil, and then goes through this really long evil, and then just like her flip to, oh no, we need to protect them, did feel very authentic. So I think if he would have developed his characters better, that could have came across better. But also, I don't have a history of his stuff and repeating a storyline. So, but the episode 6, when they did the parallels of her and the rabbits, I really liked that episode. But it's like more artsy and it is all character building, and I'm definitely more into that style of stuff versus just action.
Yeah,
So I loved episode 6.
That's actually what got on my nerves a little bit. That might be the episode where people said, Lady is overrepresented, Mary is overrepresented. But my issue wasn't that episode happened. My issue is that she got a whole ass backstory and origin, and you're telling me that you couldn't do that in maybe just a 3 or 4 minute sequence for Dante in the first episode, make it a nightmare that he has all the time, and then he wakes up and then go into the rest of the story. Are you fucking serious? So now we have a supporting character who doesn't even feel like a supporting character. She feels like a co-star, and this shit is happening, and I'm just like, I knew before this series ended, oh shit, they're gonna have a lot of people are mad at how much screen time Mary gets. Mind you, some of those people have a point, and some of them are just insecure, stupid assholes. But yeah, continue.
But yeah, with no like, oh, this is the game and it should be this way kind of stuff. Like, I would have liked episode 6, but it just has like its own standalone thing. Like, you could have cut out the rest of the series, and I would have watched that one episode and been happy. Music, or I'm sorry, writing dialogue. For once I like, I don't know, for some reason I thought going into this would be a lot more about the characters and the world building, and instead of just being so action based. Once I finally switched into, okay, this is just like an action show. The little bit of history, then the dialogue made sense for that genre. It's not like my preferred genre per se, but dialogue was okay for being that. Even though Dante being voiced by the same voice actor who also, well, he's done a ton of stuff, but also did the
Nero.
I'll think of his name. Well, he was also the main character in Bleach. I don't know the
He was
redheaded. Oh, I
also
can't
the
think.
main character in Devil May Cry 4.
I haven't played the game, so I don't have that.
I know, that's
But
specifically why you're here. I wanted
yeah.
people who are
Oh,
familiar with the series and just people who are coming in fresh.
okay. Yeah, I kept hearing him as like a young teenager, because well, even though he ages up in Bleach, I've only watched the first part of Bleach, like the first story arc, and he's a teenager. And even though I know that actor's not a teenager, it just the voice didn't match Dante in my to me. But but I mean the voice acting itself was right, and I agree that one the vice president or whatever, his voice acting was really good. I looked the actor up because that, and I thought he sounded familiar, though I don't remember if I heard him before, but he was good. Um, I'll give the writing and dialogue a, a B because it matches the. I'll give it a C plus. It matches the theme. There's definitely parts that feel very overacted, and I have like really like I can't like overacting just gets on my nerves really easy. So, but I was still able to watch it, and it wasn't so bad that I wanted to stop watching it. So, yes. Music. I mean, the music was good, and that it set the tone, and I thought it felt relatively consistent. Um, the one scene where he decided to use the crap, like it's my brain's
Devil
it's
Trigger.
Wednesday. No, the like oh my god, it's a really popular like '90s metal song.
You
They
you
use
talking
it
about that?
briefly in one of the fight scenes.
Are you talking
Hmm?
about the Green Day song or the Limp Bizkit shit?
It's in neither of those. It's
I
I
mean,
listened to like a
if you
I've
can at
listened
least tell me
to
what happens in the scene, I could help you. But if you can't,
it's
you
when
can't.
it's one of the car scenes. Falling in Reverse did a remix of the song. Can't believe I can't think of the name because I've listened to the remake like 1,000 times. Um,
Okay.
but it's a song. He's a oh, cut my life in two pieces. Last Resort.
Papa Roach.
Yeah, Papa Roach. Yes, I don't know why I can't think of that. Yeah, they use the Papa Roach song, which because I've heard Falling in Reverse's remix where he uses the exact same lyrics, but he changes the tune of the song. Now it's a song that's about um wanting to end oneself. But in the original version, I don't think it comes across as well. But if you listen to the remix, it's really obvious what it's about. So now when I hear that song, that's what it's about in my head. So it sort of fit the scene, but then it just threw me off
Yeah, and
because of
that
what the
was one of the
song's about.
things I think you saw when we were talking about it in one of the server channels. Uh, a lot of the music that is licensed, not Capcom already had made, but a lot of the music they're licensing specifically for this show doesn't seem like it matches the show. It seems like it matches someone's idea of the show and the era when that
Hmm.
stuff is not in a line. Devil May Cry is basically metal with small sprinklings of pop, but it's to the point where they're still using actual instruments most of the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Adi Shankar has somehow just decided to fuse what was essentially the birth of punk rock with goth themed rock and metal rock and that weird punk rock rap hybrid we had temporarily going into the 2000s
Hmm.
that existed, and it really doesn't fit. I don't mean like, ooh, because of how I feel none of this matches up. I mean, he won't even the songs he picking don't match the scenes that we're seeing on screen. Like that Last Resort shit, if you listen to that song is about someone essentially getting ready to have a mental breakdown or possibly commit suicide, and he's playing this shit to like fight music in the background. Like, and I even said it when I was watching it, this doesn't feel aligned with the show, which is the main reason I gave my shit a C, because The music that they have is not bad, but they don't seem to be triggering, no pun intended, at the right points and times in the show's themes. Now the Green Day one, that actually fit. If you know the lyrics, you understood it. But yeah, that was all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I looked up because I looked him up earlier when you were talking about him, and he's a little bit younger than me, but not that much younger. So, but when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this person was really into this genre of music and this, like, because it's all in a small time period. Because I was like, yeah, I knew this song, and he's close enough to my age. I kind of felt like his little Napster list or something from back in the day. um, so I did like again the music in episode 6, and I just really liked episode 6. So the music for that episode was good, and it was different music than the rest of it. But for the rest of it, I was like, okay, this is the tone of the show he's going for. But I definitely agree that it's not the tone that I ever would have, even not playing the game. It's not the tone I ever would have wanted or associated with Devil May Cry. And I think I have watched some, because a long time ago I was super into animated music videos, like, fan-made videos. And I know I've watched some Devil May Cry videos. So I'm pretty sure my ideal of what the game is came from watching those. It definitely wasn't anything like the show. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he has an obvious aesthetic and theme he was going for, but I don't think he understood how hard it's disconnecting with what the character is doing and the audience perception. You can't plan for the audience perception. You can try to steer it, but even with steering it, as you say, as a newcomer, you recognize this shit is not syncing up. It would be like I watch Romeo and Juliet, and right when Romeo dies, they start playing the Power Ranger theme song. The fuck?
yeah. Animation to me, it just seemed like a generic action animation. Nothing was, it's like animation style. It all seemed pretty typical. Not bad. It did its job. It was okay. So I'll give that. Well, a B. Like there wasn't anything where I don't think I was watching the animation with as much as well, like as deeply as you were, but it works. None of it threw me off or took me out of the story or anything like that. So, and then did you want me to do my cons?
After me. Okay, so I'm gonna be frank. I think one of the biggest cons is the writing, and I'm saying that as someone who gave it a pretty high score. The problem is this show is not written like someone. It doesn't feel like it's written by someone who had a set idea of how to blend their writing topics, aesthetics, and style with a predetermined and pre-established writing aesthetics and style. Now, do not get me wrong. I am well aware that many people in Hollywood will get licensing to something because they like it and they think they can do an accurate portrayal. This isn't that, or rather it doesn't feel like that. Reminder, when this show first got announced as far as a license being acquired, that was like 2016, 17? Yeah, something crazy like that. And he only made one statement in public. I got the license before some Hollywood and Jaboni gets the license and screws up Devil May Cry. That to me sounds like someone who's passionate about it and they care about it. But when you watch the show, it's not that he doesn't look passionate anymore. It looks like he didn't take Devil May Cry to preserve it. He took Devil May Cry to try to influence it towards an idea that he had of Devil May Cry. A personal construct of what Devil May Cry is and means to him. Which technically anyone with a license would do, unless they're literally just trying to use a license to get away with doing a bunch of heinous shit. However, what came out does not feel like that to fans. Now, I'm not going to use my Reddit name, but here's something I can tell you. Comments are being deleted. Posts that are being critical, but not to the point of offensive, are being hidden and locked away. And occasionally, Adi Shankar is deleting extremely negative posts as well, or claiming that somebody is making a bad faith argument and whatnot. This to me reads like he's having trouble accepting the viewpoints of others. Do not get me wrong. An asshole is going to be an asshole. If he wants to block an asshole, hey, more power to him. He wants to remove an asshole from his social media, he's allowed to. We're not owed access to this man. Take it from someone who used to do licensing and talent acquisitions. That man is hard to get a hold of on purpose, and it's fucking annoying. And I don't mean that in like the corporate sense. I mean that just for people who want to get permissions and licensing through him or from him, just to be able to display certain things. I won't go into too much details because it's technically not that relevant. But my point is that there are people, whether it's him or people relating to him, who are trying to hide any form of negative critiquing. And I don't mean like I said, the heinous shit. I mean just basic negative critiquing. When I went back to my Devil May Cry post, yes, there were people saying all types of ignorant racist shit, or people who trying to defend Catholicism and all this other crap. And then there were people doing what I did. Now, I'm gonna see if I can pull up my statement right quick. And I'm gonna show you how somebody, because I know Adi Shankar does not own the Devil May Cry Reddit, but is going out of their way to try to protect this show or shield this show. Let's see. Oh no, I don't think I can pull it. No, I straight up can't pull it. So when they wiped I guess they must have wiped the entire comment chain. So I guess I'll try to summarize it a little bit. Basically what I said was along the lines of, there is a genuine disconnect between what the storyline is and what Adi seems to understand or think the storyline is about or was representing. There's a disconnect with everyone. So basically, Adi Shankar made a story that is so similar to all the other stories he made that we're aware of when it relates to video game stuff, that people were immediately put off by that story. They were a little bit annoyed by it and depressed, but not to the point of saying he's a piece of shit, he fucked up, or Devil May Cry, blah, 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 blah. Some people did that, do not get me wrong in the slightest. But the people who said as little as that, which I did, were getting blocked or their comments were being hidden, and the entire topic discussion was removed from the fucking Devil May Cry official Reddit or unofficial Reddit, depending on who you ask. So I don't know what to tell you. If that's happening to that scale, and your best response is, my story isn't about religion isn't bad, okay, let's say I believe you. That's only half the problem, that people can't tell that. The problem is you didn't make a story that was deviating enough. So the story is the biggest thing that needs improvement. And I would say the two things that I think need improvement after that is number two, Lady. Lady needs to be less important. Period. She needs to be less important. She does not need to have as much dialogue and story time, because now you're at a point where you're aggravating your fans because they are perceiving her as a co-star, not a supporting cast member. She needs to maintain that supporting cast member status. That can't happen when she is like the only person getting upgrade weapons. She's getting dialogue devoted to her, and she even had her own backstory. Not just a B plot or a C plot or a subplot. She literally has too much shit devoted to her. And this is coming from someone who likes Mary. Number 3, look, the OST, they need to just have somebody else make the entire OST. Have someone who literally worked on the instrumentals to all the Devil May Cry's come in and say, hey, can you rearrange your shit, or can you make new tracks like they did for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake? Nobuo Uematsu did not make no new tracks. He commissioned other people to do it, and he wrote new music instead. So that needs to happen, and that's one of the easiest changes they can make. And it's for one very specific reason. Because holy shit, the aesthetics will start syncing up a lot better, or they will be perceived to sync up a lot better if the music can match. Because this punk rock upbeat shit, it's not working for Devil May Cry. It's not. It's not working for the show. It's not working for the scenes that it's used in 9 times out of 10. It's not bad music, like I said. It's music in a bad setting. Especially the intro. And I'm not saying that just as someone who doesn't respect Limp Bizkit. So fucking, that's my primary 3. We already know what's gonna happen for the most part in season 2. Dante's either gonna maybe meet Lucia in 1 or 2 episodes and she's gonna fuck right off somewhere, or they're gonna team up, and at the end of the season he's going to fight Virgil, or halfway through the season he's gonna fight Virgil, because him and Virgil are at odds. Because Virgil is gonna represent the refugees and Dante is gonna represent humanity, and they're gonna do the exact same shit they did in Devil May Cry 3, the exact same shit they did in Devil May Cry 5. Virgil is going to help cause a commotion that can collapse human society as we know it, and Dante is going to fucking stop him, even though he somewhat agrees with Virgil. You can't make it more generic than that. And we're gonna come back to this statement when season 2 drops, for the record. Anyways, yeah, with that being said, those are my cons. What about you?
Pretty similar. Definitely the plot story needs to, I think he needs to kind of, for lack of a better term, pick a lane. Like, you want to do like a deep story about humans being crappy, like you need to develop your character some. Or if you want it to be like a fun action story, then leave it kind of as a fun action story. There are anime that I've seen where they have done a good job of mixing like lighthearted goofiness with really deep stuff, but they also take like 5 seasons to kind of make that transition, or to, whereas he's trying to do it in like 8 episodes. Like it's too, it's a very fast moving story. If he wants to keep it fast moving, then you can't get into the deep stuff because it's just going to come across weird and flat. So I think he needs to kind of pick what if he wants it to come across really well. But because he's using the Devil May Cry franchise and not just his own made up worlds, he has to, if he wants people to watch it, he's got to appease the fans to some degree. So I think you should just go with Devil May Cry, all the cool action that you would expect from the show, and just focus on that and leave the other stuff out, especially if he already has those messages and lots of other things already. Yeah, so, and pretty much I agree with you on the music stuff as well.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we're going to transition over into Scare Shuffle. Scare Shuffle, take it away.
Alright, so after watching this show, I have a lot of mixed feelings. Overall, I did like it. There were there are a lot of issues I had with it, but there are also a lot of things I like. And it definitely was a 80 Shack Hard production. So let's start going one by one through this, and I'll kind of break down my thoughts. So first is my plot/story. I will give that a B. And From a normal standpoint, I would not say it is a B writing. It probably is more of a C. However, I give it a B because Devil May Cry has not exactly really been known for the best stories. There are parts that are captivating and fun, but it's not meant to be like high thought-provoking art. So for what Devil May Cry is, I give it a B. So, however, there is one thing in particular that makes me want to give this an F. But I'll get to that because I have a fucking rant about that part. And by part, I mean a whole part of the show, not a part writing-wise. Writing and dialogue. B-. Similar thought process. If I can... be nice if this thing was... There we go. B-. There were times where I'm like, okay, Dante, what are you saying? You're not a fucking superhero. Like, he's saying, like, oh, the superhero shit. I'm like, this is Devil May Cry. I'm not here for superhero comic book bullshit. Should some of that maybe be occurring? Maybe. Sure. Should that be what he is saying, or what he should even be aspiring to be? No! And they did that in, like, the first few episodes, and then never fucking acknowledged it ever again.
That was hilarious.
It feels like Dante...
I'm glad you brought that up.
It feels like Dante was written by different people in the first and second half of the show. Like, it doesn't even, Throughout, Lady was well written. The President, I thought, was fine. The villain, White Rabbit, stole the fucking show. Like, his dialogue and everything was great. There's a certain other thing, though, that makes me want to give this thing an F minus for a certain character in particular. I am going to hold back and come back to that. Because that's the thing. I am a big Devil May Cry fan. I really like Devil May Cry. And there are this, and I'm like, you kind of did an interesting thing. Other things, such as, I like the idea that hell isn't necessarily hell, but an alternate dimension. However, I also kind of don't like that, because, like, look, I get it. Like, you gotta have some message in your story and something to say, but I'm tired of everything lately going, oh, you see, it's just misunderstanding. Go look at this person over there. They're not the evil ones. You're just being a dick. And I'm like, look, great. Those stories need to be told. That's not what I'm here for Devil May Cry. Like, you can try and tell emotional stories. Like, I look at Lady in Devil May Cry 3, like the game, and I'm like, okay, you can kind of see the emotions and things there. But I'm like, I'm sorry, not every single thing needs to be sympathetic. Like, it was well done for, like, having the sympathetic demons and shit like that. Well, not demons, but, like, look, is it so hard to ask for a Blade-esque show where it's going around killing demons while you have a giant overarching plot going along? Like, it was well done, but it's just not what I want from a Devil May Cry show. And I mean, I kind of like where they're going. However, for writing, that fucking ending, man, with the fucking US government, they're like, stealing the portal and shit. It's just like, nope, they literally, they played American Idiot, which was fitting, but it felt like they wanted to play America Fuck Yeah from Team Police. I mean, that is fucking hilarious. That was one of the only times the overarching music fit the scenario, but yeah, that was hilarious. Also, to kind of sort of, I'm curious about something. Is this your first Adi Shankar production? No. Well, wait. I know the animation studio was that of Castlevania, but he didn't have anything to do with the Castlevania shows, right?
I believe he just bought the rights, and that was about it.
Okay, so then what else has he made? It might be my first Adi Shankar production.
The Richter season, I believe he wrote or co-wrote, and Laserhawk, if you remember that.
Never saw Laserhawk. I've watched all of Castlevania Nocturne.
Okay, so...
And my opinion on that was the first season was mid as all hell.
Yes.
Second season was actually very good.
Yeah, and still had that fucking overarching audio issue that pisses me off. But, so Laserhawk's story is basically the same as this Devil May Cry story, which is one of the main problems our people having. They're noticing a repetition in his writing style to the point where it's becoming detrimental because quite literally there's almost nothing different other than the cast. So tell me if you heard this one before. This is what happens in Laserhawk, and this is without me telling you, the major characters.
I don't even know the premise of the show, so.
A group of people try to take down a giant organization on the federal level because it is essentially enslaving and also dehumanizing interdimensional sentient beings who had no control over coming there, and they are essentially refugees. That sound familiar?
Yeah. And from hearing that, here's the thing. That's the entire part of Devil May Cry.
Yes.
They could have cut that out.
Bro.
They didn't need to put that in there.
Bro, and now you see why, it's not even the fan base is divided. The reasons people hate it or are aggravated by it are decided. I am in the this aggravates me camp. There are people in the hate camp. I get it. But then there are, just straight up assholes who want to hate farm, or they're just stupid people. Man, why they make Devil May Cry woke? Those brain dead idiots who literally can't even define half the words they use and then look at you like you're an asshole when you remind them, why are you using words you can't define? So the problem is that right now, at least online, Shankar is trying to essentially run from this by either saying this is a bad faith argument, his literal words at one point, and some weird shit's going on with the Reddit, which I mentioned earlier, but you weren't here for. But I made a comment on the Reddit because people were discussing what the issues are people are having with the story, right? And it was very clear to see some people just being disgusting hate speech bastards. But then there were people like me who were having a genuine problem with it, even though they liked the show, meaning they couldn't like something and acknowledge that there are faults. And people like me, our comments were getting hidden, and everybody else was getting deleted. And now the entire chain is gone. They literally, the mods deleted that. Adi Shankar has no control of the Devil May Cry Reddit. If memory serves, Capcom doesn't even run it. So that means that there is legitimately an inherent problem. And you really can't go on YouTube because you know how that shit works. People want to hate farm. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, they have legitimate problems with Devil May Cry, which I do too. But that's not the problems here. The problems here is the writing and how formulaic and basic and continuous it's telling the exact same story. Because if you saw them think about it, the same situation happened in Castlevania Nocturne as well. Here's a group of people secretly trying to control the entire planet, let alone an entire country, and they essentially want a slave class. In this case, it would be the human beings who don't become themselves, creatures of the night. And I'm just like, bro, you are telling the same story with very, very little deviations over and over and over again. This is a problem. My problem with you is that, and also a lot of the songs that get used for high intense action scenes don't seem to match what's going on, like the Papa Roach shit. I'm not gonna get into that because I already did in my section, but this song is about a mental breakdown,
Opinions
and suicide.
I have opinions about the music
and suicide and shit. And you're playing this during a chase sequence. Maybe if you played the instrumental without the words, that would have worked. But man, it's this shit. But yeah.
I mean, on the Papa Roach one, the thing is, while that is the meaning of the song, most people who listen to that song and know that song don't really give a flying fuck about that. They care about the vibes.
Whoa.
And that's just I'm in the emo and pop punk scene, so I am constantly surrounded by the main audience of people who consume this type of music. I am constantly in Chicago at punk shows, at emo nights and other punk events and things like that. So in the context of how that song is normally consumed and used on a large scale, it was used correctly. On the meaning of the song itself, no. But a lot of songs that get to a certain size, the meaning of it goes away.
Well, you're proving my point. It was music that fit, lyrics that didn't. But also that kind of shit was more prevalent throughout the show in general. But I already did that on my section. But yeah, I just want to let you know, he keeps writing the same story. And the problem is people who are addressing this are being viewed as, no pun intended, some type of demonizers who just don't like the idea of seeing anything that can reflect real life in a drama. Which, first off, do you not understand the concept of entertainment? Entertainment is a reflection, and it's the oldest thing ever. Life imitates art. Well, it's not just that. It can also work backwards. Okay, if someone wants to make a story like this, I'm fine with it. My problem is this motherfucker has now done this damn near 5 times. If you really stop and think about it, he's done this damn near 5 times. Some version of this 5 times, or produced something 5 times. And since he's one of the people in the highest positions, yes, he can take some blame for it. But the problem is, that's not what's going on online. For every one person who says, fuck you, you're a piece of shit, I want to kill you for doing this and blah, 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 blah. There's like 5 other people who, like me, who have a legitimate concern that is being ignored or just being drowned out or erased, even though we don't hate him as a person. It's crazy.
Yep. That's just kind of how the nature of the internet works and kind of always has to a degree. But as for the storyline, I mean, I can only speak on Castlevania and Devil May Cry. It's for Nocturne compared to Devil May Cry, I feel like it's telling the same story but at different points in time. One is that because Devil May Cry is after that type of regime has already been founded and then that empire trying to expand, whereas Nocturne is trying to create that empire from the ground up, is kind of the difference in how I see it. So it's yes, you're telling the same thing, but at different points in time, so you're kind of showing different angles of it. I mean, maybe I'm playing a little devil's advocate with that thought process. That's just kind of how I see it, maybe. I can't comment, as I said. I've only seen consumed 2 of his works of art. But continuing on the writing and dialogue, though, there is an episode in this show that is not like any other episode in the rest of the season. And honestly, I think it was the best episode.
Are you talking about the Mary episode?
Hands down. The what?
Are you talking about the Mary episode?
The one where it's constantly in different animation styles in the past, kind of showing the backstory of White Rabbit and Lady? Yes.
Ironic.
Yes.
That is very ironic.
Why?
I fucking hate that episode.
It does not fit with the rest of the show.
No, that's not why. It's because Mary, a character who's not even supposed to be a co-star, but a supporting character, got an entire episode devoted to her backstory, whereas Dante, the main character, got fuck all.
Oh no, Dante got jack shit. But if you took that episode out from the rest of the show and you watched that episode in a vacuum, that shit is phenomenal. If you took it out of the show and looked at it by itself, it is great. I mean, just from an animation standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, I really liked how there was no dialogue until the very end of the episode, where it kind of came back to the semi-present. I just thought that episode was very well done and very well written. But then you fucking lose me with... I'm literally holding off on this. And I have so much emotion. I've been waiting to rant about this since I finished the show. But it is going to be long enough to where I'm going to wait till I finish talking about everything else. So back to still, Dante got jack shit. Dante was Dante only part of the time, and personally, I blame a certain other character for that happening. Lady, I like how they changed her backstory. I'm I get it. I see why they did it, and it makes sense for what they're going for in the show. However, I'm sorry. Now I can't get Jester. He's dead.
I mean, technically he is a demon or a half demon now, so he might not be dead. He might be able to regenerate like Dante, theoretically.
Theoretically, but I think we saw him basically reduced to ash, didn't we?
I can't remember.
I could be wrong.
I can't remember.
I'm yeah, but seeing how demons died in the show, I don't know. There's a chance, but either way, I don't think the Jester storyline even fits in with what they're doing for Lady. So, but there's that piece. I do also like kind of how they implemented some of the other demons from the actual games and things like that. That was kind of neat. And they didn't do ones that are super important, but were kind of nice to see.
Let me ask you something. Did you really like Agni and Rudra?
In the show? No, but I never really liked them in the game either. I like it when I watch them die. And I got to watch them die.
So you got your ass beat by them a lot. Okay.
No, I just found their voices. I just never found them funny.
No, the problem.
Literally, Dante even says in the Devil May Cry 3 cutscene, "Alright, you guys can stay if you shut the fuck up."
Dude, my problem is their whole fucking accent. They're like Indian or Far East or Eastern themed demon characters based off of elements or gods with elements from Eastern culture. Why they sound like some Irish, Scottish dudes at a fucking pub. That shit pissed me off.
Also, what they did with the equivalent of Dello Angelo, I'm like, that was a waste of that character, but at least he got a cool fight scene. So.
I mean, all demons have more than one iteration of themselves, so there'll probably be another one.
I can dream. But still, White Rabbit fucking stole the show. Gonna be real. White Rabbit was the best thing of that entire show. Of the entire show. Also, Kevin Conroy, hearing his voice kind of shook me a little bit. We're never gonna hear him again, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what? I'm like, of all the characters to cast Kevin Conroy as, cast him as the fucking religious vice president? Huh? Okay. But, as I said, I'm giving it some slack because it is a Devil May Cry show. It's not supposed to be high art. It's supposed to be fucking cool, badass shit. With a little bit of a good story and a message thrown in there. So, I stick with my B-. Now, on to sound effects and music. You know, you convinced me. I was originally going to... Can it let me write? Thank you. I was originally going to give it a B, but nah, it's a B- also. And I have a couple of reasons for that. One, a lot of the sound effects audio mixing at times was kind of jank. Like, they had good sound design for the sound effects they chose, but, like, sometimes the mixing was kind of jank.
Can I just... I would like to take this time to acknowledge, this is now the 4th Adi Shankar-produced thing where the audio levels and balancing I have people who complain about. Not because, oh, they have shitty speakers, but no, they didn't mix them right. This has to be a habit at this point.
It's not just an Adi Shankar thing, honestly. It's just a Hollywood standard thing now, and I hate to say that that's the truth. Like, I was watching Black Klansman the other day, and that's from 2017, 2018, and it had that problem.
Well, were you watching it on Netflix first off?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just let you know that this is actually a running problem with Adi Shankar stuff, and no one knows what the cause of it is. Like, is this...
I mean, Netflix in general sucks at audio mixing. Like, Netflix as a company, most of their shit sucks with audio mixing because they don't invest in it.
Well, to be fair, some of that is easily fixed because people don't realize it, but Netflix, when you turn it on, whether you have them or not, as long as you're using stereo speakers, Netflix will default into setting the audio to 5.1. Which is kind of dumb to me.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, but no, I mean specifically because you haven't watched those shows. But if you go watch, excuse me, all the Castlevania shows in order, bruh, there was an audio problem, and it's not caused by Netflix. Like, characters can talk to each other in the same room, and the volume will be so different, you have to boost the audio by over 30 points to hear the other person.
I kind of noticed that in Nocturne Season 2. I was adjusting the volume so much.
Oh yeah, that's the whole entire franchise, bro. The only one where it sounds like it's level, I think close to it, is Laserhawk.
Oh. But as for music, here's the thing. I'm biased. I fucking love this genre of music, as I kind of alluded to earlier. And, like, here's the thing. Well, yes, in the games proper, aside from, like, a few original tracks of Bury the Light and Devil Trigger, like, it's not really a genre of music heavily baked into the game franchise or the series. It's more baked into the fandom and the culture around Dante and how people see Dante. And because the way he acts in the original games is a very similar attitude to how a lot of people in those music scenes see it, which is why there are so many AMVs online and video edits of fucking Dante, Nero, and Virgil to punk music. Which is why, like, when I saw Limp Bizkit was the opening theme, I'm like, okay, I can roll with this.
You are one of only two people I've ever heard like that.
Heard like what?
That Limp Bizkit is even in this fucking OST.
I mean, it wasn't like it got overused. If it was like even more pervasive, I'd have a problem. The way they used it, they're like, this is the opening. I'm like, okay, fine. That's fine. If it's kind of, and Dante, like, and we're also an early Dante. Like, if they start aging him and maturing him, and that's still the opening, then I'm gonna have a problem. Because, like, Dante actually matures a little bit as he gets older. And, like, this is, like, DMC3 era Dante, where he's, like...
Yeah, and I totally get it. And what also annoys me, well, I mean, you can call it a spoiler, but no one said that this review was spoiler-free. Dante is not going to be aging for however many years or months or whatever. He's not going to be aging. I really think they just put him in cryogenic sleep so they can have a whole entire, like, small army or something for Dante to fight in the second season, which already is a problem if that's how you're going to go about doing that. But I don't think this Dante is going to transition into DMC1 Dante or even act like him till nearing the end of the show, to be honest. I will say, though...
Assuming we even get that far.
Well, there's going to be a second season, but I don't know if we'll necessarily get to a third, is what I mean.
That's what I meant by what I just said.
Oh, okay. Because, yeah, they have the potential to fix all of the problems or at least go through the critiques for this series before they really start animating season 2. But at the same time, I don't know if that's going to happen if you look at how Adi Shankar is handling things right now. Because it's one thing for him to call out people who are claiming he did something, but he's also doing it with people who are legitimately concerned and then doesn't answer anything, but he wanted to make a little statement. So I'm just like, I don't know if he can necessarily learn from, not so much maybe his mistakes, but just learn what is expected of him as someone holding the Devil May Cry license versus in comparison to what he wants to do as someone who holds it and, have that compromise. Because the main reason good licensing material happens is because there's a compromise, or they literally bludgeon the original material to death to where people forget it even exists and they butcher it to the point and no one knows about it. Case in point, Jurassic Park. But that's just one example.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, here's the thing about, how do I put this? A big issue with this show, like, yes, it ended in a way, like, the American Idiot ending, I'm like, and I bring this up because on the one hand, yeah, the US government would totally do all of that shit. Like, I saw that, I'm like, this came out of fucking nowhere, but also you kind of made it allude to this, and yeah, the US government would absolutely fucking shit. And, like, yeah, it is set up for next season to fix it. However, I don't think he's going to have the time because of the way a lot of animation works, especially Netflix animation. Generally, when there's an IP attached to it, the second season is already renewed before they even announce it by a long mile. So I wouldn't be shocked if they already have scripts and some animation done. It is possible that they have enough done to where he won't have time to even fix it.
I honestly believe that. I believe that because the season 2 got announced, I believe, 2 days ago.
A week. Yeah, it was like a week or two later. That it is very normal in animation production for that to happen. Like, there's a reason Netflix started doing things in a way where it's like, oh, hey, another season. That wasn't another season. You paid for one season and then split it into 2. And they announced it like it's a second season because that looks better. That is just a practice the animation industry has been using for quite a while at this point. I think way longer than I probably even realized. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's too late. Or what they do fix, they're still kind of limited in what they can fix. And I hope they lean more serious and they get rid of it. And they have the opportunity to do that because of something I will get to in a moment. But I want to finish my point on the music, then talk about animation. So for the music, like, however, that new Evanescence song, I'm just like, mwah. I love that fucking song. It goes hard. It was used well in the show. I thought that was very well done. Like, I like the vibes and how they used it overall. I think they just overdid it a little bit and need to tone it down for the next season. That's kind of why I give... Like, it would be a straight B if not for the poor sound effects mixing. So, on to animation. Now, this is where my history of being a former animation major and watching too much shit comes into play. It's a B-. I'm sorry. But honestly, I'm tempted to give it a C, but I can't because of the scenes where you can actually see the budget. Because the thing is there are parts in the show, like in any animated show now, where you can tell it's like choppy and things like that. They didn't waste too much time on it because they had to save the budget for things like that final fight in the end of the show, which was fucking cool. When he fought White Rabbit in the final form, that was fucking cool as shit. But, my god, they did not hide the 3D models well. Like, look, I know everything is
That's
a 3D
what
model
I
in the
said.
show.
That is exactly what I said.
Like, and look, take this from someone who knows animation. You can do, like, originally it kind of seemed like an artistic choice where all the demons from the demon world were the 3D models. Like, initially, you could tell, it's like, oh, most of the time these demons that are, like, from the original game are all 3D models to kind of make them otherworldly, while everyone else looks 2D. I thought that's what was happening at first. And that was, in theory, not a bad idea of a way to save budget, but also make it make sense. Nope. There were so many times I'm like, oh, nope, you did try and make them look 2D there. Oh, hey, why do the 2D characters look 3D right now? Oh, God, this character looking 3D looks horrible. I can see the pixels on the goddamn model. This is a high-budget show. What the fuck? Like, and I'm like, I know you choose and save your budget, but...
Hey, Google. What was the budget of Devil May Cry?
The famous Ego Raptor sequelitis video. If it doesn't work, then you change it. But it's... And, like, there's so many times where I saw the animation and I'm like, bro, that needed more cleanup. Yo, why was that so choppy? How did that get through? And it's like, yes, they're all on crunch time, but there are even things under crunch time you should not let get. And there were times I saw that with effects. There were times I saw that where it's like, you did not let that fully, like, where I'm like, did you fully even let that render? Or, like, did you, like, what the fuck was going on with a lot of this animation? And, like, they had the golden opportunity to save money, of make everyone from the Demon Realm that 3D model style. If they did that, they would have saved their asses from the budget. But nope, they couldn't even do that. So, now that I'm done explaining all of that, there is a glaring detail I have left out of everything I've been saying. There's a certain thing I have not mentioned once, and I'm going to fucking go off the rails in a moment. Zach, I want to see Zach's. Do you know what I'm referring to?
There are so many choices with this show. I can't imagine more than one. I mean, I can't imagine just one.
There is literally, this is the one part of the show that made me want to put a fucking bullet in my mouth.
The president?
No, I didn't mind the president. I've met people like that. I could believe
I
that
bet
a
you
vice
have.
president
I'll
could end up
legitimately
like that.
bet you have.
Yup. I could totally believe a vice president being that guy and acting like that and being all holier than thou. No, he didn't bother me. I could believe that. That made sense.
The human-infused demon?
No! Fucking Enzo! That motherfucker!
Oh my god.
I fucking hate him so much!
Why is it that he is always a different fucking person in every single Devil May Cry? Someone explain that shit to me. There's literally no explanation.
It's not even that.
No, that pisses
it's
me
not
off.
even. I mean, yes, that is a problem. But that's not where I lie. My problem is every single 5 seconds I wanted him to shut the fuck up. Like, he is the most obnoxious, horrible fucking character I've ever seen. Like, in the beginning, in the first episode or two, fine. He's the fucking guy who snitched on Dante being annoying, comedic relief. Fine, for an episode or two for that, I was fine. But no, he kept coming back. Literally when the fucking cavalry showed in, and you're like, the military, and he popped his ass like, hey, Dante! Look at this! I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Why is he here? Why did they even bring him along? The military would never do that. If anything, there should have been a bullet put in his brain. And why were him and Dante even friends? Literally, Dante's like, yeah, I can trust your ass because I know you're gonna fuck me over. Okay.
Yeah.
Why is he still here?
I think they thought comic relief needed to go through the entire fucking season, when realistically the comic relief could have just been witty banter coming out of Dante or Mary's mouth, or really comical run-liners. And for some reason they just said, nah, let's not do that, even though that would be a good idea. And here's Enzo.
Even stupider. Here's the stupider part, is they had Enzo sacrifice himself to make Dante sad and go into Devil Trigger. I'm sorry, what the fuck? No. Just no. And you made Dante Dante should not give two flying fucks about this little miserable piece of shit of a man who is just the most aggravating character I've ever seen. And like, when I saw him die, like I saw him come back after running away, I'm like, they're not gonna fucking do it. Don't you fucking dare do it. I know what you're about to do. Don't you fucking dare. And they did it. And I wanted to be fucking cheering when he died. But no, I was just mad.
Bro,
I was just mad.
I was so.
And I wanted him dead.
This is how fucking annoying and indifferent that Enzo was to me. When he died, I was like, huh. So I wonder if they're going to make a different Enzo every season, or if they're just killing him off because they literally couldn't think of a character that would trigger, no pun intended, Dante's an emotional reaction and dramatic reaction in Dante. Because at this point, there are only basically 3 people that we know Dante is cared about in the games in the beginning. It's his mama, it's his daddy, and it's Enzo, because they used to do missions together. Okay, this is not that Enzo. So my first thought is, maybe we're gonna get a new Enzo every season. I'm cool with that, because I hate this different Enzo shit for no logical reason, and they can't even explain it with the story. That's how indifferent I was to his death.
Like, here's the thing. I would have been fine with him being throughout the show if they did him like they did him in Bayonetta. And I say this intentionally because supposedly, according to the Devil May Cry creator, all of his works are connected, even if they're owned by different companies. I call bullshit on that, but okay.
No, you're right to call bullshit, because legally he can't do that. So whatever he says coming out of his mouth don't mean shit, because he doesn't have the legal authority to do it.
But like, the Enzo in Bayonetta is supposedly the same Enzo in Devil May Cry. Like, he has Enzo in that. Like, he has a character named Enzo in Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and Beautiful Joe, and they're all supposedly the same Enzo.
Yeah, and the main reason they're different is because I can't say this is officially confirmed, but from what I was able to somewhat put together based off of random things I had to get translated, him saying that all this shit is connected is one of the main reasons why the Enzo is so different. Initially, there wasn't an actual visual form of Enzo. The one that you saw in the cartoon was not designed by Capcom, and Capcom had nothing to do with that one's design. But if you notice, they always stated that if they were to do a sequel, they would utilize and capitalize on that design. In between that time is when Hideki Kamiya, not Itsuno, Kamiya, made that statement. So the producer, who may or may not have a problem with him specifically, said, I want to make this Enzo, make sure this Enzo is as different from his Enzo as possible. Completely also forgetting that they already had an Enzo in the Devil May Cry manga as well, with a visual image.
Which is ironic, considering there are parts of this show based off the manga, and like, one of the best parts of this show, White Rabbit, is from the fucking manga.
Yeah, and this is the shit I'm talking about. And then, on top of that, there's also people trying to claim shit, and this goes into Adi Shankar, but this is a weird one. I don't know where you land on this. He replied to somebody saying, only a handful of people know why the Devil May Cry 3 story for Lady wasn't told and what it was even about. I was like, what are you talking about? And I wanted to comment on it, but people were saying some stupid shit on it. And I was like, what are you talking about? Last I checked, and this was a long time ago, the person who was drawing it stated that Capcom was giving them unrealistic deadlines, and he got fed up with it and left, and they just said screw it. The producer said screw it instead of trying to find a new artist. On top of that, the story was exactly what was implied in the actual game. So there's no difference. So that means it's not a secret, because in the game it states Arkham finds out the whole entire story behind the separation of the demon world and the demon world and Earth. And quite literally, he, through some type of just research, he realizes he's married to the descendant of the sacrifice maiden. And on his quest to gain demonic power, because he was lusting after it, he realized one of the things he would have to do is possibly have a sacrifice. So he chose to sacrifice his wife, and lady walked in on it, got freaked out because something happened, or maybe she saw Arkham for the first time, not realizing what it was at the time, and he slaughtered mommy dearest, and that's what sent her on her path of vengeance. So that is so common in the Devil May Cry sphere that we knew about that before it went on the fucking Wikipedia page. So what do you mean only a handful of people know what her story was supposed to be? That don't sound right. But again, I couldn't comment because some people like, fuck you, Adi Shankar, you piece of shit. Your story would have been shit. The story from the manga would have been shit. And it was going. I was like, oh, no.
And the manga was actually, good.
Yeah, but and that's what I mean, though. That's like, you sound like someone who knows Devil May Cry, but then you say things that the most basic of fans already know. That's why I'm confused on, does he like Devil May Cry, or does he like Devil May Cry 3? It's like, do you like Final Fantasy, or do you like Final Fantasy 6 instead of 9? Shit like that.
Yeah, because like me, look, I have different opinions on all of the Devil May Cry games, but I think they all have their place, except for you, DMC2. Go fuck yourself.
Hey. Don't forget Dino.
Dino?
You don't know who Dino is?
I'm trying to remember who that is, if that's a character from DMC2. Mind you, I try to erase anything from DMC2 in my head aside from press the gun button, Lucia's kinda cool, you play as Trish if you 100% the game, and I try and erase as much of DMC2 from my brain as possible. I tried playing through that game. I played through it all, and I did it drunk, just thinking maybe it'd make it more enjoyable, drinking with some buddies while playing the game. Nope, did not make it better at all.
So Dino is the name for the Devil May Cry 0 Dante. Dante in name only is what it stands for.
Oh.
Yeah. I will still take Devil May Cry 2 over that jackass any day.
Yeah, fair.
And also, people are modding the shit out of DMC2 to suck less, so it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, however, I ain't gonna touch that. Yes, it's nice having fans fix it.
No. I totally understand. But you see what I mean? He's saying things that don't sound like someone who played everything. And to be fair, bro, you don't have to do a lot. There is legitimately only 5 titles that you needed to pull from. There is 5. And of those 5, all of them except for one are collected into a bundle for 5 or 6 years at this point. So realistically,
and then special edition, you can get a used copy of DMC4 for dirt cheap. You can get DMC4 special edition for dirt cheap.
And he said he grew up playing it, but now that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he means the franchise or specifically just 3. Because you know how Capcom is. If they shit do well, they make an alternate version. And if that shit do well, they make an alternate version. That's why there's so many Mega Men.
Well, that may be true. DMC3 is a different case. We got special edition because the base version was too hard.
Maybe. But
finishing my thoughts on Enzo, if it were Bayonetta Enzo, where he's an informant and he shows up and he runs away like a little bitch and funny shit happens to him because he's a little shit, and then he leaves until he's needed for the plot again because he's an informant, That'd have been fine. But no. You failed miserably. And also, there is something I forgot to mention in the music that's kind of related to playing the games. I like Dante, what Devil Trigger starting to play when he was using Devil Trigger for the first time. Like, I get why, but it's also Nero's song. But I also understand why you're like, fans are like, oh, I gotta hear the song. Same with, the thing is though, they did Bury the Light with Virgil, and I think they should have saved that for fucking next season and just done the DMC3 theme. And like, fucking hymns, and people hate him coming as like, I am the storm, like from the I am the storm. That's some corny ass shit. I'm like, I want to be mad at that, but I'm like, nah, I kind of like that type of shit in my Devil May Cry.
Listen, you are preaching to the choir. I said it in my shit. Like, sound effects was so mad that I can't even hate it or find interest in it. It literally did its job, and it did the bare minimum. As you would put it, well, that was a sound I heard. But when it came to music, that was my primary thing. They kept choosing songs that didn't fit with the aesthetic or what was going on screen. So I literally felt the same way, like, why the fuck is Nero's theme song playing when we have Dante, who has the better library of tracks they could pull from?
I will say, I do love the ending for the show. Like, I love the, like, operatic Devils Never Cry. Like, I was quite a fan of that. I really liked that. I liked the ending. And, like, if this show was better written, it'd have been perfect. Like, it just... But, like, it sounded great. I'm like, when I heard that come on at the end of the first episode, I'm like, why does this sound so good? I really liked it.
Okay, so in summary, what would you, bullet point it, what would you improve on the most for season 2? What would you want to see?
Here are my bullet points of what they need to do. 1, make the story more serious. Get rid of an Enzo-like character. But by making it more serious, you have Dante still be the comedic relief, but not like you did in the beginning of the show where it's like, I'm a superhero. Wait, no, I'm not. Like, actual comedic Dante. Like, from, like, how he is in the games. And occasionally. But, because that's the thing, Devil May Cry, while having goofy shit, takes itself seriously. That, fix the fucking... And that, again, writing dialogue, any Enzo-like character, get them the fuck out. No, you need to prove yourself. You need to earn my respect back. Get out of here. Sound effects, like, improve that, obviously, but, like, they're not gonna. Music, I think they can still keep doing what they were doing with the licensed music, but I think they have to use it more. Like, they did use it well, but I think a little more sparingly and make it make more sense. Like, opening of season 2, him killing a bunch of demons, and you have fucking Five Finger Death Punch playing, something like that. Like, sure. Like, it's the opening, like, montage, he's killing a bunch of demons. You do something like that, yeah. Just don't do it during serious moments. Or during things where it kind of doesn't make much sense. And the other thing is, animation. I'm sorry. Fix that shit! And yeah, that's the general gist. Like, overall, I have to give the show a B-. I am very mixed on this show. There are a lot of things I really like, but there are a lot of things I just... Huh?
So many people are mixed on it, and it's crazy because of all the people that I know that hate it and all the people that love it and all the people who are in the middle, everyone's going to watch season 2.
Yeah. I'm going to watch it, but
too.
I may not stick through the whole thing. It has to earn my trust back. And the only reason I'm watching it is I think it can get better. That is the main reason I will watch it, is I think it can get better. There was enough there. But if season 2 is dog shit, you lost me, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So for me, I want to ask you just a really curious question. Like, you know, it's not pertaining to this per se, but I'm curious. Devil May Cry 6. We didn't know each other when I made my Devil May Cry videos. They do organically, they do some of the best views on the channel. They are ridiculously, obscenely data driven to the point where if I come up with a concept, it'll take me at least 14 days to get enough data to make something, and it'll be like 30 or 40 minutes. Because it's not just, here's how I feel. What do you think, internet? No, it's literally like, this is what I know. This is what I've been able to found. This is how I think something can change or how something can improve. But for Devil May Cry 6, do you want everyone to become playable, or do you want it to stay with the current cast?
Well, what do you mean when you say everyone becomes playable?
Everyone that's ever been playable.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I do think we need, like, what I think they should do is, honestly, obviously keep Dante, give him new weapons and all that. Virgil is the updated special edition / DLC, because I like that trend. It's gonna be funny. Honest, I find it funny at this point. Nero is optional, and then give us 2 new characters and maybe Lady, and I'd be happy.
Fuck you, I want everyone playable. Okay, with that being said...
Well, I only say that because I want Devil May Cry 6, and dev time takes forever.
Yeah... See, now this... I don't want this to sound like I think they're incompetent or something, but I've learned some shit that I wish I didn't about Japanese development for the bigger companies. Sometimes things can get done faster if the director didn't have an obsession with trying to utilize certain people. And that's all I can say while we're recording. But with that being said, I'm going to pass this over to Romulus now. So Romulus, why don't you tell us what you think about Devil May Cry?
Yeah, I will give plot and story a solid D for me, big dog. It was rough, honestly, looking back at it after the high ended, because one, I didn't not really thinking about the games. I didn't like how Dante just never knew his dad, nor knew about how anything worked for him, and how he's all of a sudden blinded by him being the son of Sparta. What a devil trigger is. I didn't even like them using devil trigger as a concept or being wrote in as such. It should have been handled more, since you want to introduce it seeming like Dante never knew anything about his life prior to this. So you can't just drop devil trigger as a funny haha buzzword that you know that word from the game. I also didn't appreciate at all what they did for, well, I guess I gave you more for writing and dialogue, but yeah, the story D, especially considering how vapidly different they wanted to treat the demons in this show by making them refugees, considering none of the games prior to this have done anything. They just stuck to demon. We are demons. We are coming to destroy the earth. Only 4 people have the power to stop us, and after that, it's cooked. I also didn't just like how this is more so of the hindsight, because the first official Devil May Cry game I really played was Devil May Cry 4. So I was already peeping the fact that the religious group was going to be evil. That was just spot on the nose. Let's see. The plot was pretty good in the beginning, but after that it just took a nosedive for me. It did not seem like it wanted to. The story it was trying to tell came off poorly, because truth be told, when the dude went through the portal into the demon world, should have died personally. that should have just been the end of his. I also didn't really like the plot reveal of, oh, humans are just as bad as the demons they condemn. That's a given. But trying to use the white rabbit for that catalyst in the reveal, annoying. But I did like the character of the white rabbit. I just didn't like what he represented towards the end of the anime as a whole. And that was just something I didn't like. So now I'll be moving on to the
Writing and
dialogue to really hammer in some of the other stuff, because the writing and the dialogue, it definitely also, because firstly, the writing all over the place. You just completely murdered Lady. Having her say fuck every other sentence was jarring, considering I think she was introduced in Devil May Cry 3 and how
she was quiet and
she poured her heart to Dante.
Yeah, in Devil May Cry 3, Mary starts off as quiet and homicidal. Like, she has a character, but her character is not loud like that. Don't get me wrong. Like, she's still serious, but her entire speaking mannerism, a lot of people found fucking problematic. Not because, oh, it's a woman cursing. It's like, no, it's because this doesn't feel like you were trying to write Mary. This feels like you were trying to write a caricature of Mary.
Probably the worst caricature ever, because they wanted to use her as the vessel of, oh, it was wrong. Maybe the demons are good people. I'm like, what the hell? I also didn't like how, again, I also didn't like the fact that they just completely wrote out her traditional silhouette of white tank top with the, not white tank top, the white button up with the shorts. And she didn't get her big gun until the end of the first season. I also didn't like the fact that something I will always hate, writing in a group of people just to die. I did not like, you told me the game, the devil hunting group she was a part of was from, I can't remember it, but I did not like that.
They're caricatures, ironic, no pun intended. They're caricatures and parodies of Capcom's first beat 'em up, which was called Captain Commando. He's the character you see in Marvel vs. Capcom, who wears the red glasses, and for some reason he can't stop moving.
Yeah, well, I did not. They were introduced like they were gonna do something. All of them get clapped and destroyed shortly after the fact. It was not a fun watch at all. Like, see, look, the design, the color, hell, the fucking main dude had his fucking gauntlets, and they all just get murdered. And you want me to try to sit here and try to mourn their losses for characters that just filled a niche role, didn't do anything but gas up Lady and die. Don't write characters like that. If you want to add a whole group of people into a show that are supposed to have weight, make them have weight. I could have understood if you wanted to kill them off later, or have the group start to be stifled with Lady about demons aren't bad, and they be like, excuse me, and then, you know, falling out, something that has substance, something that makes their inclusion make sense. Instead, you just gave me a group of people dying, more dialogue issues. Like I said, I did not like that they just kept splashing in the game stuff like, oh, you got the fire and ice, the fire and wind sword demon. Look, it's the plant lady from Devil May Cry 4. Ooh, it's the bat guy from Devil May Cry 3. Like, that is doing them so much more injustice than anything else. I also hated the fact Dante kept saying jackpot every 2 minutes. Because I know that is his
Yeah, it
key
doesn't.
catch.
It didn't fit. Dante saying jackpot doesn't work how Capcom even wants it to, which is a weird thing to say. Jackpot is supposed to be theoretically something he says as a finisher and closer for the final boss of whatever game he's in. But ever since he first said it, it keeps showing up in places and ways that don't make sense, and they keep trying to force it. Like when he says
He
at
said
the end of Devil May Cry 5, he's shooting at two demons that are small time with his brother and just goes jackpot. Bro, well, I think Virgil didn't want you to say it because it would feel like you were wasting a good phrase on weak ass enemies. You get in the 4, I don't even think he says jackpot in 4. At the end, he just goes, come on, babes, let's rock. And he's posing like he's about to go fight somebody, but there's no one outside to fight. It's just really weird how they're trying to force significantly cool scenes with one-liners. You can't do that. Ironically, I know we're talking about Devil May Cry, but now it's to a point where it's bleeding over into the show.
I feel like the only really two best written characters would be Enzo, the White Rabbit. Ironically, even though I bashed his stuff beforehand,
No, I totally
and
understand.
even
I totally understand.
because that was just an amazing written character. I just wish that he was written better. I would have appreciated if he just was through the whole series. I was really expecting that. I didn't expect what we got, but here we are. Calculated, evil to the core. Or at least that's what I was hoping for, but then they gave him sad backstory. I'm like, oh, great. And the boy Enzo, through and through, fucking, let's make a deal where I stab you in the back, but I give you money for it. Which also confused the fuck out of me a little bit. Like, is he not supposed to be here? Is he supposed to be here?
Funny you should mention that.
Does he get picked up by Rodon now? I'm confused.
Funny you should mention that, because quite literally, we have had 3 different conversations about that. Here's the best answer I can give you, and I'm gonna tell you like I told Shuffle. So Hideki Kamiya, not Itsuno, the guy who made Devil May Cry 1, he basically decided of his own volition he can do and say whatever the fuck he wants to about characters that are in games that he's worked on. Mind you, he does not own the rights to any of these characters. So as far as he's concerned, all of his shit is linked if he can make his characters or say their names, or if this, regardless of what companies decide. Like, he's decided it is a decision solely up to him. Now, from what rumors have been around, this is where we have 4 or 5 different Enzos, because this dude fucked it up for everybody. So, Bayonetta's Enzo is not supposed to be an Enzo, period, at all. He's not. He decided that he's Enzo. He also decided to have rough draft sketches and artwork that wasn't used promotionally that feature Dante without it being Dante in the artwork. You know, shit you literally and legally cannot be doing. So the producer, or at the time the CEO of Capcom, caught wind of this, and at this point in time, we are in between Devil May Cry 5 and the production of the Devil May Cry anime. And once 5 went into production, it either came from the up top, or the producer himself supposedly was pissed about this Enzo problem, and also found out he was using Eva later, but he disguised that one in writing inside of like a 1-page summary in Bayonetta 2 or Bayonetta 1. And there was also an asset flip, or something similar to an asset flip, with some of Bayonetta and Dante's accessories. He got told, or he decided, Enzo needs to be an exact opposite, completely different from any iteration of Enzo that has previously existed. So that means the Enzo that's in the Devil May Cry comic that came out, the Enzo that's in Devil May Cry 5, the Enzo that's in Devil May Cry are supposed to be the same person. But the design change came from Kamiya openly stating, nah, my characters are all Link. I'll use my character's name and shit when I want to and shit like that. So that's why he's so different from what he looked like in the cartoon, even though he's supposedly from the same story. And also, this was something decided late into the game. No pun intended. Or I should say later in development. Which is why they tried to reference the Devil May Cry original cartoon show and make it canon. Because that's why Patty calls you on the phone at the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the game, but Enzo is a completely different character. That's why that happened. But if memory serves, everyone on the production team who knew about it was told not to say anything. So this only happened because Hideki Kamiya decided he can do whatever the fuck he wants to with characters he does not own or have the rights to. And he never did. Like literally, he never had the rights. To be fair, or unfortunately, he's not the only motherfucker to do that. I know you love, I don't know what his name is, but the dude running the Xenoblade franchise, but he's the most guilty out of everybody that's ever existed. The only person more guilty than him is the creator of Fire Emblem. Nintendo hate that motherfucker so much they literally erased his name from the record books. Literally. But yeah, we'll talk about that at a later date. But that's why there's so much of an Enzo problem.
Xenoblade games not making a Xenogear reference, level impossible.
Quite literally. What pisses me off the most though is that they could probably get permission, they just choose not to. So they openly make the shit worse for everybody, and it just ends up getting on my fucking nerves. Because first off, I want a Xenogears remake or sequel, a legitimate sequel, as much as I do a fucking Chrono Trigger remake or a legitimate sequel. Ironically, this motherfucker worked on both of those games.
Right. But go another couple gripes going back into writing. I know you are Capcom IP, but you didn't need to throw Captain Commandos, Mega Man, and Resident Evil at me. What the fuck do you mean Dante went to Raccoon City? Now you're gonna have people fiending for Mr. Leon Kennedy now. Just because of that. That was actually annoying. Just another one of those things like, oh look guys, look, we said the thing, he did the thing. Like, can we take the writing a little bit more seriously? Just because you can throw Capcom into it doesn't mean you should throw Capcom into it. This is not MVC3 or Capcom versus SNK. This is not that. This is Devil May Cry. The only game you could cross it with is Shin Megami Tensei, and even then, that's a stretch. Now, moving on to probably the only two categories that are gonna get a high rating: sound effects and movie music. I don't care. I knew I was the target audience for that soundtrack. American Idiot, Guerrilla Radio, Last Resort, Evidences. They even brought back the only one I've seen the most issue with is Dante having Devil Trigger for his Devil Trigger Awakening.
Literally everyone has brought that up. Everyone has said that shit is out of place.
Yeah, that instead of having his Devil Trigger, just Devil Never Cries. But they're using that for the ending, so it would confuse a lot of people having the ending into his theme. But again, most of the people watching this are fans of the series. But overall, I thought the music was great. Guerrilla Radio, when they're raiding him, fucking music stopping when he gets blasted through the chest. The sound effects of the swords clashing, guns the sound effects, and then the sound effects and stuff were really good. And I know I'm going to be the only one dying on this hill, but I know I was the target audience for this. I am the anime AMV child. I didn't have to say anime AMV because it stands for animated music video. You know what the fuck I'm trying to say. I was the one meant to listen to this soundtrack. I was the one who was supposed to get geeked up for hearing Limp Bizkit in the opening. You'll never make me hate it. Animation, though, I did say I was gonna give it a solid rating, but honestly, it's only getting a B+. Excuse me. Because the 2D animation style was pretty good. Being able to constantly show the different action shots of Dante swinging his sword, how the cape, or not his cape, his cloak was going to move when he fights, the bullets, the actual spark of the gun, how the world didn't feel stagnant when certain things happen, like when Jelly Virgil breaks into the diner. It shows the truck, it shows how Dante reacted to the truck being thrown at the people, how the appendages came after Dante. Just everything about that was greatly shot. The only downside why this wouldn't go A or higher was due to the fact of the everybody's least favorite part, the CGI animated fights, because those were rough. It was a certain thing that also happened. The same thing happened if you are familiar with the Baki Hanma Netflix series when Topo Orochi is being approached by Dorian at the theme park. Everything up until that moment, 2D. And then when the hypnotizing scene comes in, it becomes CGI, and good lord did that look awful. And then after, when they started fighting for real, they went back to Baki's classic perfectly drawn combat lines so you can see where the fists are connecting, and you feel the weight behind each hit. Unfortunately, Devil May Cry did not have the greatest recovery from that. It did recover, but it did not correct it well at all. Now, my biggest con, moving on to the end of my segment, my biggest con is that you completely wrote out Trish from the story. Devil May Cry 1, she literally kicks in Dante's door and stabs him with the chest, and that's when Dante announced himself the son of Sparta, his brother died to demons, and that's why he carries the burden that he does. And Trish really drags his ass out to confront Virgil's devil form in the first game. Why are we leaving out such important characters like that? If you want to introduce I don't remember when Virgil's human form got revealed, but y'all just drop that at the end of the show. But you did that before introducing Trish, the first person actually with the Sword of Sparta, which is still like, again, why is she not here? Where did my lightning lady go? Another con is definitely your plot, because we really gotta really correct this, because even though you are now greenlit for a second season, I don't see it going well. Because Devil May Cry fans are up in arms with somewhat like the Castlevania fans watching their favorite IP just get eviscerated because this wasn't Dante from Devil May Cry, this is Dante inspired from Devil May Cry. Now, I don't know where this comes in from the game that shall not be named, with another protagonist with a similarly sharing same name.
Dino. His
As
name is
Dante.
Dino.
Yeah, we'll call him Dino. Yeah. I don't know how they feel about that in comparison, but this show will not last if it keeps getting deep fried by the community. Which is crazy because he did Castlevania so well. You definitely need to improve the writing for your characters and really think about who they were in their original canon, because clearly you are deviating. You are clearly trying to not make it one for one Devil May Cry. But could you at least understand the characters you are writing and understand why Dante does what he does?
Okay, so that actually brings me to an interesting question, which I asked some of our previous guests, and I want to ask you too. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen that there's basically three sides to this Devil May Cry, the fandom right now. There are people who liked it. There are people who have misgivings about it. And then there are complete and total drag-a-tail, gutter snipe, QAnon type, I hate woke can suck my dick type, pieces of shit who like using words they can't even properly describe. Here's where I'm lost. And you touched on something I kind of think as well. I can't tell if Adi Shankar likes the Devil May Cry series and franchise, or he just likes Devil May Cry 3, because you can like Final Fantasy 6, but that doesn't mean you like Final Fantasy 7. You can like Final Fantasy the franchise, but that doesn't mean you like Final Fantasy 13. I fucking do not like 13, and most people don't. I can't tell if this dude actually legitimately likes Devil May Cry as a franchise, or he likes Devil May Cry 3. What do you think?
Personally, I think he likes the IP of Devil May Cry with only the concept of playing Devil May Cry 5 on easy and easy combo system.
Damn.
I know
that is mean.
Let me talk. Just hear me out. The way that's when you bring that up, and what I have seen from him when he went to WWE in the costume, he is a small fan. I wouldn't call him a huge fan. There's other stuff I've seen about him, but if we're just talking just about Devil May Cry and how he feels about that, he likes the IP, but he did not embrace the IP. He is not like you, where you could top to bottom write a 30-page thesis of Devil May Cry 1.
I feel called out, but I can't disagree.
He is not somebody who would put hella time and effort into doing such. He has clearly embraced the meme culture of Devil May Cry, where, again, now that I bring that up, I gotta change this writing grade to fucking D-, because how you can just have Virgil say I'm the storm that is approaching,
bro,
without.
Bro, there are so many people who don't know how to feel about that line. They don't know if it's good or shitty or just really corny. You are literally not the only person to say that.
It's fucking corny, because again, nothing about his ending line should have just been about him damning humanity and embracing his demon side as he does. It should have been far away from saying, I am the storm that is approaching, because we all know where that is from. We all know that the way Virgil's even designed is not supposed to be old DMC5 Virgil.
Bro,
this is...
I still think it's fucking weird. Even in the trailer, when they show Virgil, Emmanuel, it's a fake electric monster. When they show that Virgil in the beginning of the series in the show, I was like, I don't feel like this works right here. Because in the commercial, we don't have context. But when I'm watching this episode, like, wait a minute, this shouldn't be happening right now. That was my first thought, which I know sounds weird.
But yeah, he is somebody who would rather have a surface level understanding of the IP instead of trying to really delve into it. Because from the discourse I've seen, I really tried to put this in my shoes. If he, for some ungodly, say the ungodly reason, he gets the rights to animate a dot hack fucking Netflix show, right?
Uh-huh.
I would want to do bodily harm if he only focused on the fact Balmung was a good fighter and not what the descendants of Falania represent on a lore perspective, for him being able to defeat the one Sin at the time, standing with CC Corp to protect the world and the world as a whole, and how he himself embodies the aspects of what heroism is. It just made Balmung strong. I would feel the rage they are feeling now.
Okay, so I don't know. Did you watch Laserhawk?
I did not watch Laserhawk.
Did you watch the Castlevania cartoons?
I've seen the end of the first season, and I just started the second season, where Trevor and Magic Lady left
Okay, so
Alucard.
yeah, so here's something that, and this is what's making me think where there's a disconnect. I don't think Addy is aware that he's basically been writing 4 or 5 versions of the same story for like 4 or 5 years at this point. This is the story of Laserhawk, not Devil May Cry. This is the story of Laserhawk, not Devil May Cry. A giant corporation that has essentially taken over almost all aspects of human life, including the federal government, has decided that refugees from an interdimensional portal who don't know how they got there don't deserve to have the same rights, and they might as well be a slave class, and if they try to buck up, everyone can essentially shoot and slaughter them. Sound a little bit familiar?
Yeah, and Laserhawk got shot down by IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. And then you get and then you get to Castlevania, or more specifically, the second season of Castlevania and the entirety of Nocturne. There's a group or organization that partially works with religious organizations to have it so the elite class, people who are financially well-to-do, essentially will help vampires take over essentially the entirety of the planet. And on top of that, they've decided that these other people who are already here, minding their own business, are now just a food source. You see how every time he makes a new story, he doesn't make a new story?
You know what? Putting it like that makes sense.
And then you get to Devil May Cry. You have a federal organization which is partially run by a fucking religious zealot, a corrupt religious zealot, who has decided, through no logical reason other than his own religious belief system, these people from a different dimension, who are essentially refugees, have to be wiped off the face of the earth. The only exception being Dante.
I did find that weird. He glazed the fuck out of Dante, top to bottom, but condemned everybody else. Like, what was the split? What made Dante so special when literally get reported refugees in the building, kill them on sight? But Dante, you see him transform into a devil, and you say magnificent. Even when he pushed the black guy out the helicopter at the end of the show, he said,
Yeah.
I came here with nothing, and the Lord saved me. Let's see if the devil does the same thing for you. Like, what do you mean?
Bro.
You're condemning his people, but you're fucking sucking Dante off.
But you see how these stories have so little different. And then it's even more apparent in Laserhawk, because Laserhawk was the same shit backwards. Laserhawk, there's a small group of good guys, and they're trying to convert what is essentially bad guy Ubisoft characters into or onto the right side with varying degrees of success. A fake group of Power Rangers, Rayman was one of the main characters. Sam Fisher and Sam Fisher's daughter were in there. And I'm just sitting up here like, is he just mad that Laserhawk got shit canned? And he just wants to keep trying to tell that story? Because that's what it kind of looks like. But remember, and I know you don't remember this because I think this was from before we even met. One of the first and only interviews he did on public about Devil May Cry, he was supposed to do a reveal that he got the licensing rights on IGN. He went up there and said, the reason I grabbed the licensing rights was because I don't want these Hollywood jabronis to take Devil May Cry and ruin it. And then he puts the mic down and he just walks away and leaves. Literally, that was it. And that was 5 years before the show came out. I think that was like 2017, 2018, right? 2017, 2018. So here we are in the year of the pumpkin, 2025. And he does a show that no one can decide how the fuck he came to the conclusion with half the shit that he did in it. So I think he may be holding some type of media-based grudge off of how Laserhawk was treated, because this story is basically the same shit. And that's where one of my issues is. Like, I am honestly not in the, it's automatically trash because it didn't conform to what I wanted it to conform to. My issue is there's room for improvement, which is why I have this whole section in there. But I don't think he understands where the improvement needs to happen. Because I've been on the Reddit, and I don't know if you saw, and I know they wiped it out because I'm one of the people who spoke on it. I was one of the people bringing up, hey, listen, yeah, there are some zealots or just plain old arrogant, uncivilized and rude people who don't like this Devil May Cry because whenever they hate something, it's just woke and they can't explain it. You know, human trash. But that's not my issue. My issue is I don't understand what the direction of the show is supposed to be. And if I have to say that about the entire show, there's a problem. And one of the main problems is he keeps writing the exact same story. It doesn't matter if there's another writer with him. He keeps writing the exact same story. So my problem is, at what point does he stop and realize he's not writing a Devil May Cry story? Adi Shankar is writing an Adi Shankar story with a Devil May Cry coding or something like that. I shit you not. I went back there 40 minutes later. 90% of the comments were deleted. To be fair, they were saying some raunchy, unnecessary shit. And every other comment that wasn't, if it sounded anything remotely critiquing it, it was locked. That's weird to me, because here's the thing. Capcom doesn't own the Devil May Cry Reddit. They don't run it. Capcom, I believe, does own their own official Reddit. And Adi Shankar doesn't own the official Reddit. But he's also deleted, Twitter comments as well, at random. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's douchebags. And he said something that I thought was really weird, which made me ask do you think he actually likes Devil May Cry versus Devil May Cry 3? He said, somebody commented about Lady's story, and he said, only a handful of people know what Lady's true story was supposed to be and why the book wasn't even properly finished or completed. And I'm one of those few people. And I immediately thought, that doesn't sound right. Because first off, this information was, if memory serves, on the wiki page for over a decade. And the answer was, Lady's story was not told because Capcom was giving unrealistic and restrictive deadlines, like literally was giving unrealistic restrictive deadlines on the completion of the art. And because of that, the initial artist left and the producer just said, well, fuck it, let's just go with the game. And the story was supposed to just be how Mary's dad discovers that he married the descendant of the sacrificed lady, which is still kind of sort of a plot hole because they said it was sacrificed maiden, which means she was a virgin, but she could have had sisters or some shit, I guess. And he wanted to attain demonic power, and one of the only ways he thinks he can do it is literally by getting into the demon world and making himself act as if he is a demon, or getting a demon to possess him to some degree to allow him to be able to pass easily through into the demon world. She came in, saw that he was murdering her. She somehow gets knocked unconscious, or she gets infected by something, which is why she has a second color eye, because her second eye color happened because of this incident, supposedly. And that's why she's on the path to kill this motherfucker. But he just sat up here and said nobody knows what the story was. Nothing is confirmed. And only he and a handful of people know why it was canceled. Bro. How can you say something like that? And first off, why are you hiding it? You're under no legal obligation or restriction to hide it. And also, he didn't really make a story that was that much different in his show. The same shit still happened to Lady. The only difference is it didn't happen to her when she was 17 or 18. It happened to her when she was like 9. So that's why I'm like, I don't understand what type of Devil May Cry fan he is, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. Because like I said, he's just a person with minimal interest in the franchise, but likes what the IP could do for him. And if pressed, has, again, easy mode, easy combo. Just to play the game,
Supposedly he's known and has read every book, but also, you can't really prove that. It could be a situation where he just bought the books and took a picture of them. But
if he'd known and read every book, he would have wrote this fucking story better. He would have known Dante knew his father. He would have known.
No, I think he did know. Like I said, my issue is that no one was expecting him to make this shit canon after the announcement it wasn't going to be canon. I get it. My problem was the characters aren't even canon to their own selves. So that's why I said earlier, you weren't here, is like some of these characters feel like a caricature of their original character. They feel like a caricature. Ironically, the person who spoke the least is the person who feels the most accurate. And that's Virgil. Virgil collectively has, I believe, 4 whole sentences. And one of them's a grunt. Also, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking with Agni and Rudra. Bro. Agni and Rudra are the Far East, I believe, Indian gods or words for fire and wind, something like that, right? Why the fuck do they have this like British, Scottish, Cockney type accent shit going on? Oh, you killed my brother. I guess I'm gonna have to give you a right proper thrashing. Bro, it made no fucking sense to me.
Weren't they supposed to be door guardians too?
Yes. They're supposed to be guarding Tim and Negru, which I can tell you probably ain't gonna show up.
Now I'm even more mad.
So,
Like,
and this is why people, even though Invincible is a little bit different, this is why people respect and enjoy Invincible to some degree. Yes, they can pull down big celebrities to play characters, whoop-de-doo. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But Invincible respects, it's easy to tell that Invincible is trying to respect the property, the license. I can't discern that from whatever this guy is doing. That's a problem. So yeah, with that being said, in closing, Romulus, would you recommend the Devil May Cry show to someone?
it's honestly really hard because I would have to ask the front question, have you played the games before? Second question following, how do you feel as the creator of the show in general? Depending on the answer to those two questions, I will have to just have them a hard pass and say, you know what? You want to play Devil May Cry? Or you want to play MVC3? Because if they are avid fans like you are, they won't like it. I know they won't. If they're like me, who really want to actually put the time and effort into knowing this story more, because I don't know if, no, I bought Devil May Cry 4 digitally and Devil May Cry 5 digitally, but I would have to rebuy the 1, 2, and 3 collection again, because I bought that physical for PS3, and obviously I'm not getting that game back.
Well, to be, damn, someone jacked it. Well, they have done a bunch of bundles in more recent years, so there is a Devil May Cry.
Oh no, they have a sale on Steam right now that I've been thinking about picking up.
Yeah, there is a Devil May Cry 1 through 4, including the special editions version that's on the PS4. They redid the one on the PC too. So, you can get one of those. I will say, if memory serves though, Legendary Dark Knight mode is not in the PS5 version of Devil May Cry 5, I think. That mode is only on the PC version. But yeah, it is, and you weren't here for Desdemona, so if you're ever listening to this, she's the second person to go through this. She specifically has no Devil May Cry knowledge. She's never played the games. She literally started with the show. I specifically got her on board because I wanted somebody the closest I can get to what the internet would perceive as an unbiased opinion. Because, you can't tell the internet you are capable of an unbiased opinion and expect them to just take you on your word. But, also, I can't expect people to have, fuck you for saying this earlier, gone through my 30-minute and hour-long Devil May Cry related videos, which there's about 3 of them now, to see that I am completely capable of acknowledging faults and weaknesses in the franchise. The most common one being they've stopped trying to make interesting and exotic locations and areas, and instead just have simple puzzle, go into a room, locked out of a new area until you beat up these guys, simple puzzle, go into a room, rinse and repeat, So I legit don't know if I can even recommend this shit. And I don't think the show is terrible, but I hear something I thought is interesting. Everyone who watched the first season, if they hated it, if they loved it, and if they're in between, everyone's watching season 2. So I'm definitely curious. We will be revisiting this. So if you do want to review season 2, just say the word and we will definitely try to do something. Okay?
I'm here for season 2.
Cool.
Just keep Nero far away from it.
Man, the way this series is going, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. We just saw Lucia get tossed in prison for like 5 seconds. I had to tell people you have to go back and rewatch it just to see that shit because they didn't even notice. Lucia, and she's in her Devil May Cry 2 outfit. The whole outfit. So, fucking, we don't know what's going to happen at this point. But yeah, I appreciate you coming through as always. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.